Hey guys, welcome back, and it's time to actually start making our player character, which will be a worm. So what we need to do is create a piece of geometry which the player will control. After that, we're going to animate it, obviously. But what the important thing here is now we have to decide what kind of a character this is going to be. A realistic worm, sort of like a slug. A more cartoony worm, which would be more like a snake, or something more of a functional worm. In other words, basically a driver for gameplay, which I believe is what our main issue is here, because we want, even though it's a very simple game, you want to have some depth to it, because we're going to add two attack profiles, so to speak. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and make this worm. However, I want to say something real quick. Before this video, I actually went ahead and cleaned up this place. So if we go ahead and, like, I made a layer here and added these objects to the layer. I also grouped them together here, though this is like overkill. No need for that. I renamed the meshes. I also cleaned up this net here. You can see there's no one on the sides because I came to the conclusion that there really is no need for pylons. They'll just crowd the place. We don't really need them. Don't need to see them. I think they'll just get in the way, so I just got rid of those extensions here. I also cleaned up a little bit of this mesh. In other words, just selected a couple of edges and deleted them, which, there's really no need for it, but might as well just keep it nice and tidy. We don't really need this bit here too, so it's up to you. Okay, we gotta basically get rid of this now. And before we begin, I want to say something. I'm going to be sculpting this sucker, so obviously I'm going to be using a lot of polygons. But what I want to say is that there's some things that are unavailable by default in Maya, like they convert to frozen. So if I go ahead and create a cube, where is it? I go ahead and create a cube, and we go into our sculpt tool, and I decide to freeze stuff. Where's the freeze thing? There we go. If I decide to, let's say I want to freeze this top bit. Now, obviously, it's quite simple for me to paint it. Let me just go here and reset this tool anyway. It's way too big, mate. There we go. So it's quite simple for me to go and paint this thing here. However, there are some issues in terms of our... Well, you can pin this? That is pretty damn cool. The problem is that not only there's a fall off here accidentally I can introduce, but also if this was a much more complex object with much more polygons, this will create a problem because I'll be basically marking stuff at all times. Now you can say, yeah, you can just delete it, right? You can simply just get rid of this stuff like this, but it's kind of messy. I think I don't like the way it is. You can obviously go and set up the fall off, and like I have a buildup of 100 so that it's very like steady. But I find this tool to be a little bit messy when it comes to these bits. So what you want to do essentially is you want to have a selection. So I'm going to go ahead and unfreeze everything. Close this. And ideally, you want to be able to select a couple of polygons. So like this. And you want to make them... you want to make these polygons frozen. However, the only way to do this right now is to go through the Windows UI elements and do this from the shelf over here, which is going to convert it to frozen. What I did, however, is if we go and edit this, you'll take a look that it's basically a simple command called convert to frozen. And all we need to do is basically map a shortcut to it. If we go ahead and open the shortcut menu though, oh crap, what did I make again? I don't understand. This is like so annoying. Just give me the... I don't want this crap. What's wrong with you? Single perspective, thank you. Anyway, go back into our Windows settings and preferences hotkey editor. Notice that if we type in frozen, we're not going to get anything. Like what you get right now is the custom script that I wrote, and essentially if we click on it, you'll see what I mean. Basically I copied this convert to frozen, I dumped it here. It called it convert selection to frozen, and I assigned a hotkey to it. So it's quite simple to get this done for yourself, so it's not a big deal. I assigned the Z because Z is like it was used as an undo. In other words, Control Z and Z were doing the exact same thing. So I figured might as well just add that to might as well add that to the hotkey bar. Another thing I think we should do, which I'm going to do just right now, would be the freeze transformations, which would be nice. And I'm going to do this with Control Shift Z, which is also not used as it is. And Z is a very good, good hotkey because it's very close to your fingers here. It's a very good spot to have a hotkey on. Okay, and last but not least, I actually added the soft select feature. I made a hotkey for that as well. You might do this yourself. If you remember, the soft select is kind of like the poor man's sculpting. In other words, if we go ahead into our vertex mode and select this vertex, and we want to move this vertex with some of these other vertices, if we open up the tool settings, right, you'll see here there's a soft selection, but you can enable it, and this will allow you to move stuff. Like you can see this fall off here. This is directly responsible, to the size of the brush. So it's like a poor man's like sculpting tool, okay? But anyway, it's nice to have around so you don't have to go into sculpting every single time. But it's also annoying that you have to go to the open tool settings. So I set it up to Shift A, assuming I get it going. There we go, Shift A. Just nice to have it around. Anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to say about the setup that I've done. And now we're going to go into our modeling. Okay, I'm going to fast forward it again, and then we're going to talk once I'm done. Okay, guys, so here's the final product. I was screwing around a little bit at the end, just trying to figure out if I should add some detail or not. But I think we should keep it simple, quite simple for this game, because if we start adding detail, like obviously you could add stripes and whatnot, and obviously we will retopologize this later, or we could just, to be fair, I think we could simply just smooth this thing and reduce it. In other words, we could just run where does it go? Reduce and reduce by 50%. And we should be getting quite the same amount of stuff. We could probably even grab the percentage and increase it even more. Well, that's quite ridiculous, but something of the sort of 95%, I think, that should be fine. But remember, we're going to be deforming this stuff, so we don't really need to do that just yet, okay? Because ideally what we want to be able to perform a couple of bends. So I think if we reduce this by 50%, we should be fairly okay, right? Because this requires a lot of stuff. Now you might say that this is a lot of polygons, and it certainly is for such a simple character, especially, you know, these bits here, these rivets are unneeded. Obviously we could bevel this stuff as well, and obviously if we smooth this, you will see that there's very little difference between smooth and unsmooth. Obviously the polygons and edges, they fly out the window, but I don't think we should do this just yet. And I don't think we should be you know, adding these reducing basically the poly count just yet, because obviously there's a lot of settings here. We could make this work, but really what's the point? So I'm just gonna Control Z out of this thing, and there we go. This is our final mesh, at least for now. Obviously later down the line we could make this thing live and start quad drawing in it. So where's the quad draw? There we go. Quad draw tool. We could start making polygons and make it a little bit more you know, make it a little bit more properly topologized, right? You can start extending stuff. Obviously it's not what you want to do, but you can even start building it like that. You could go nuts. But that's not that is not what we're gonna do for sure, because Jesus Christ, because I think it's pointless really to be making these topology changes just yet. All right, we don't need these here. Okay, come on then. There we go. Oh, come on, just this bit. Really, bro? Get lost. There we go. We'll zero this out. Okay, so I think this is just fine. The next thing we have to do is animate it. In other words, rig it and then animate it and then export it. So the idea is, right, the idea is very simple. The gameplay will be basically this thing going left and right. This is how the player will be working. Let me just put this. Oh, God. The size is obviously quite ridiculous, so we're going to have to modify that as well. But if we take a look here and rotate this sucker around, I can grab it. Come on, rotate around, please. Yeah, something of the sort. So you'd have these basically going left and right. Yeah. And then we're going to animate the jump. But as they jump, so we're going to have a secondary function here. So the first one would be a regular jump where it just goes up, and then in whatever direction the player is pressing. So this is going to be just the first jump. The secondary jump will be if you press space in the air again, and it will perform a rotation based on which way you're pressing. So it'll be a 360 anyway. So it'll be something of the sort, like it'd be something like this. Obviously, we're not going to see a 360 from here because this will just go to 180 and then flip the rotation in another direction. But I think you understand the idea. You're going to be able to basically flip either forwards, right, or backwards. And you're going to use the top of your worm to actually strike the ball. Okay. So what we have to do is actually make this usable in our game by bending it. Okay. So that's what we want to do, and as such, like we really should just get into rigging, because you know, there's quite a lot of stuff to be done when it comes to rigging. Okay, I'm gonna hide this again, but like you see the idea, right? The secondary jump will rotate, and we'll hit the ball, and the ball will be going to the other player. The other player will have the same tactical options as the attacking player. All right. Okay, guys. So that's it for now. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. We're not gonna retopologize this thing just yet, because I think we need to get out of the way the rigging aspect of it, and the actual animating aspect of it, because frankly this is a quite simple rigging and animation job, but these both of these fields actually have their own. They can actually specialize in those fields, right? You can be an animator, a rigger, which I think it's called a technical animator or technical artist or something. I'm not sure what the names for these are, but essentially we're going to go through these real quick. These are basically the menus here, called skeleton, skin, deform we already went through, but the constraint and the deform and the control, I actually never even used that. I don't even know what that is. All right, you can create a human. Wow, that's pretty cool. You can. Wow, these are new things. I never seen them before. I'll have to actually check them out and see what the hell is what they're all about. But what we're interested in is skeleton, right? And next time, basically, next video, we'll be talking about the skeleton. Here we're gonna create some joints. Where then we're gonna skin the sucker. In other words, bind this stuff to the joints. So like a spring or something, and then we'll be able to paint the skin weights, which is like that tool is just ridiculously huge. I mean, just take a look at this. I mean, these like 5 tools within the tool. I don't really like that tool. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it's quite clunky, but some people use it quite well. Me, definitely not. I'm not that good with these brushes at all, to be fair. You probably noticed while I was sculpting with the Sculpt tool. But I do think that this form is easier achieved. With sculpting rather than block modeling, which is completely fine. But like I said, I try to stick to, when it comes to organics, I sculpt. When it comes to inorganics and hard surfaces, I just use polygons and block modeling. And the curves and the lofting surfaces, they're for anything in between. So it's a quite a simple setup here. Anyway, that's all for today, and the next video we'll talk basically over the joints, the skin, and the constraints are going to definitely have their own video, because it's important to have an understanding of how they work. I got to take a look at control. I mean, this looks pretty cool, despite only having 2 options here. I think, like, I'm not sure what this is for, but I think they make a lot of stuff. This will make a lot of stuff easier. All right. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next video. So try it on yourself, try it on your own, make your own worm. It doesn't have to be the same, okay? Make your own idea of a worm. It could have a head. Well, ideally you wouldn't really need a head, but you could have a head. You could have a head, just why not? But the point is that whichever worm you make sure to have a lot of subdivisions, because I just wanted to show you that animation is a lot more fluid the more subdivisions you have. And the trick is to actually reduce the size of your model so that basically you want the animation to stay relatively the same. The deformation of the objects is definitely the same, but you want it to be a lot less expensive, because if we take a look here right now, that's 15,000 verts, okay, which is a lot of verts for a worm. All right, like imagine if this was in a first-person shooter, had a worm like this. It's pointless, right? Anyway, we will need a high-definition model anyway, so your work will not go to loss. All right, so crank it up, spam as many polygons as your computer can take, and just start modeling and make your own worm. And after that, we're gonna go into the skinning of it, and it'll be just the same as as the example worm. All right. Okay, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.